All right. Well, thank you all who had time to share and join the icebreaker. We're going to go ahead and get started with this morning's session. So I want to welcome you all here this morning and thank you for joining us as we continue the state's after-school network's education and awareness campaign. My name is Contrail Armour, and I have the privilege to be the director of the after-school statewide network here in Pennsylvania. Today's session is titled and will focus on building local champions. It is now my pleasure to introduce our presenters for today. Our first presenter is Ashley Wallace from the National Conference and State Legislators. As an associate director in the education program at the NCSL, Ashley Wallace oversees their P-12 education policy team and projects. Wallace utilizes her expertise to support research and policy insights on chronic absenteeism, education systems redesign, mastery-based education, student homelessness, student mental health, after school, community schools, and other issues. Thank you, Ashley. Prior to joining the NCSL in 2008, Ashley was a legislative director for a member of the U.S. House of Representatives and later worked in the federal relations for Mothers Against Drunk Driving, or MAD, and Save the Children. She has degrees in international studies in diplomacy and foreign affairs from Miami University. We're going to go ahead and show our support right now for Ashley and welcome her in her presentation.
Thanks so much. What a nice introduction. Hi, thank you so much for having me. Before I get into content, I'd love to just tell you a little bit about NCSL, which stands for National Conference of State Legislatures. It is legislatures because we serve both legislators and staff. So at any time they can contact us. We'll conduct bill searches and analysis for them, as well as compile the latest research. We track more than 1,400 issue areas. And then we conduct those research requests confidentially and without bias. We train legislators and staff with some professional development that we tailor just for them. And we don't take positions on state policy, but our DC office staff does advocate on Capitol Hill on behalf of all states. So things like maintaining federalism. The other main thing we do is we conduct meetings so that they can hear from experts, they can hear from researchers, they can hear from folks like you all that have that on the ground insight, and they can also talk to each other and find out what other states are doing. Our biggest meeting is called Legislative Summit. It's every July or August. And then we host more than 100 policy-oriented meetings that are a little bit more focused. So for example, we have our education program, we're holding a standalone meeting. It's for education committee chairs from across the country, as well as legislative education staff. That's actually 2 weeks from now in Arizona. Okay, so here's just a quick overview of what we're going to be talking about today. I put engaging state legislators and staff and building relationships. So building champions, but building all types of relationships, really, because not everyone might be at the champion level, but you're working on getting them there, and it's an ongoing process. And so I've kind of organized around why engage with legislators, who should you be engaging, where, when, how, and then I'll also touch on some of the unique messengers that you might bring with you if you're going to meet with your legislator. And I really, hopefully one of your biggest takeaways today will be that relationship building is key here. It's just not a one and done. It's an ongoing process. So that's why I put that at the center there. So we're going to start with the why. So why engage with legislators? Really, my top reason here is you're their connection to the ultimate why. You can talk from your heart about after school. Your program, or programs, the kids and teens, the dedicated after school professionals, and the role that after school and summer plays in the lives of your community and the lives of families. Um, and really, you guys are the experts. And then, obviously, legislators hold the purse strings. So, and sustained, reliable funding and supports can help programs plan ahead with high quality programming. And you're seeing that the start of that with the boost grants. But you can also inform them of low cost things that might be barriers because you have that on the ground insight. And you are the experts on your state and your community program landscape. You can inform them about program deserts, the programs and stories that you could highlight, and sharing your knowledge can help them make informed policy decisions. And again, um, I think one of the main goals is to build strong ongoing relationships. And it shouldn't be a one and done. And just like in your personal life, you don't want to be the person that shows up just when you need something. It's an ongoing relationship um, that you have to continue to pay attention to. And so, one of my goals is to give you some tools and information so that you feel confident in doing that. So the who, don't forget about legislative staff. You can engage both committee staff. The committees all have staff. Legislators have personal staff. They are often the ones that draft the bills. They have the ear of the legislators. Staff might have more time to spend with you in a meeting. And sometimes they're the ones that are getting into the nitty gritty, like if you have a legislation that you're looking to have them introduce, or the members introduce, I should say. And then finally, the relationships with staff become really critical when there's turnover after elections. Like they're the kind of the through line. Um, you guys are lucky to have an after school caucus, and those folks, they can also provide some good advice on how to engage colleagues who might not be champions yet. Um, in terms of committees, education committees, obviously, but also think about appropriations committees, figuring out the budgets. So on your House side, you have a House Education Appropriations Subcommittee. And then lastly, I would say you could also keep in mind some related legislation might go through your Children and Youth Committee on the House side and Health and Human Services on the Senate side. And then I also put leaders on here because the leaders of the chambers might be folks that you want to get to know as well. Legislators obviously represent your community and program or programs. And then newly elected legislators or folks that are new to their committee posts or committee leadership, new chair. This could be a great time after the election and the beginning of a new year to get to know newly elected folks as they're kind of figuring out what issues are going to be their top issues. You can get in there early. Okay, so here's some other examples of where you might engage with them. And this is not an exhaustive list, but just to kind of get you thinking of some things. There might be town halls or fireside chats that are held in the district. Obviously, meetings at the Capitol, and we'll go into more detail in a bit. In the district, site visits, I think, are really powerful. And I know that's, we take legislators and staff on site visits periodically, and I can just see like the change in them once you see it. They really get it. Candidate forums, And then, written pieces, op-eds, and then hearings and briefings, and I'll get a little bit more into that too. So when are the times? I believe you guys have a day at the Capitol in early May. And I see some love coming from Contrell. I promise he didn't tell me to mention that. But also, I know Lights On After School is coming off, the perfect time to engage. But look for connections between your policy issues and hot news items. You can time your outreach with the release of a key report, such as America After 3 that came out yesterday. There's a new NIS report as well, but also think about seasonal topics. And this goes for the media too, as well as possible connections with your legislators. So seasonal topics, I mean, like summer, graduation, things like that. Also, when they're considering a key piece of legislation, could be after school or summer bill, but it could be something else related. And I will talk a little bit about how you can connect with related issues towards the end of my presentation. And then I think I've mentioned this, don't engage with them only when you want something. You want a balance between not giving them enough information and them not knowing who you are, and constant contact. You don't want to be a pest. So there is a balance there. Always be respectful of legislators and legislative staff's time and attention. The how, this is not an exhaustive list, but just to get you thinking about things, think if there's a role for a legislator to play in all that you do, if there's a piece of information that legislators should know. Hearings are a good opportunity. You could testify, you could provide information to the network to testify, connect them with unique messengers that could testify. And what do I mean by unique messengers? Students, parents, after school professionals. It could be teachers or program or principals that are supportive of your program, and they see the difference that it makes in the students' lives. Could be a business leader who sees the value through the lens of workers who can focus because they know their kids are enjoying a safe, engaging program. I mentioned site visits, but also you could invite them to program events that you're doing. Maybe it's awards for like a art competition among participants. It could be a showcase. I know I've seen you know, after school programs do performances, whether it be spoken word or dance, or if you're having a showcase for parents, invite them. Find out what they're interested in, their education priorities, and emphasize how after school and summer might connect. And then just to touch on format for information that you might be either emailing them or leaving with them if it's an in-person meeting. It should be brief, easy to read, to the point. Do put that most important information in the first paragraph. This is in case they don't have time to read all the way through it. They're very busy. And then tie information to their legislative district as much as possible. Okay, so just a couple of things to remember. It could be a day at the Capitol. It could be another a meeting another time through the year. Since you guys are year-round legislatures, there's certainly a lot of opportunities. Do some homework with the legislator that you're meeting with. This could be looking to see what bills they've introduced. What other committees they sit on. Sometimes their websites will say what awards they've gotten from different organizations, and I think that's really telling what they're interested in. If you don't see after school as something that they've championed, that don't be discouraged. Just you can kind of find that hook. Maybe they might be more interested in the keeping kids safe and out of trouble in that 3 to 6 hour. They might be really interested in literacy, so or STEM, and so lifting up the hands-on, engaging mix of academics and enrichment might be something that they really piques their interest. I would encourage you to be confident. You guys are the experts. You are going in knowing more information on this topic than legislators or the legislative staff. Again, bring those unique perspectives. Figure out ahead of time if there's multiple folks going into a meeting, figure out who's saying what and in which order. And I encourage you to put that most important information first in case, a vote comes up or something comes up and the member has to leave early. I think flexibility is key through all of this. Contrail has demonstrated that with, the other speaker that couldn't make it because of the shutdown. So you really have to be flexible, look for opportunities, be ready with data and stories. Anticipate some possible questions. And again, that research is going to help you think of what this legislator might ask about. And please, if you don't know the answer, it's more than okay to get back to them and follow up. It gives you an excuse to follow back up with them too. And then have something to leave behind. Do keep it brief though. Be clear if you do have an ask. And you can ask them if you can follow up if you do have an ask. And I always like it just a handwritten thank you note. You could do an email, but I think that a handwritten note's a nice touch. Want to just really quickly touch on some hot topics in education that we're seeing across the country. So legislators are concerned about the lagging NAEP scores for reading and math that came out late last year, early this year. And so they might be interested in hearing about engaging hands-on learning taking place in the out-of-school space and kind of that special sauce of academics and enrichment that you all have to offer. They do also care about student mental health and well-being as well. They're concerned about making sure those students are supported. I know that After School Alliance has some great briefs on the role that after school plays in supporting student well-being. And so feel free to use those resources that they have and to connect what you all are doing. I also think that folks are going to be making decisions between funding tutoring and after school, and obviously that building relationships and consistency of relationships and sense of belonging is something that not all tutoring programs might have. Chronic absenteeism is still higher than pre-pandemic levels. Research shows that after-school programs can support school day attendance. I believe earlier this year, After School Alliance also came out with a brief on that topic. School cell phone policies, that might sound like, okay, what does this have to do with after school? But I wanted to mention it. My colleague is testifying next week at a Senate Ed hearing around, what's happening nationally around school cell phone policies, state policies. But if any of you have read Anxious Generation, they also talk about the effects of social media on student mental health and really emphasize this play-based childhood. And so I think that there's certainly connections to after school there. Mastery-based learning could be called learning for credit. I know After School Alliance also has a brief around learning for credit, competency-based education. Legislators are really across the country thinking and rethinking where learning and how learning takes place. And I think there's certainly opportunities for after school around this topic as well. They're looking at personalized learning. They really see the value of that. Um, and I do have to mention that budgets are tight, including Pennsylvania, as you probably know. So, anything that you can do to show quality outcomes, there's certainly a lot of research that's out there around after school and summer learning. They want to invest in evidence-based strategies. And so do want to mention that. And then finally, career pathways. Not sure if any of your programs focus on middle school or high school youth, but I wanted to mention this is a policy priority that we're seeing. Um, I will be providing, Contrail has a copy of these slides. I assume he can send these out after today's call, but this is a screenshot of our P12 bill tracking database. It's all tagged. After school summer has a tag. Other, you name it, it's got a tag. So this is a resource that's also public, so you guys can utilize it. I mentioned doing some homework. You can use this to do your homework. Please use us. And then here's also, these are hyperlinked. You can also subscribe to our policy newsletters. We have an education one that comes out every other week. So you can stay up to date on hot policy topics there. And then here's my contact info. I don't know if is there time for questions, if folks have questions.
Yes. First, let's show our appreciation by using our widget down here on our React button. And let's give Ashley some love or an applause for the
Thanks,
information
guys.
shared. Um, I know sometimes you think you may have heard, this same kind of routine, but every time I hear the message, there's something different that I'm able to grab from it. So I really appreciate the many options and resources I'll share here in a little bit that Ashley has brought to this presentation. Are there any questions for Ashley? Does anyone have any questions? I would just say, please unmute yourself and go ahead and ask the question. So we'll give a couple of minutes here for anyone having a question.
Ashley, hi, this is Casey. Do you have any like templates or scripts kind of to follow to start those conversations? I created an advocacy website, like webpage, but I haven't been able to like get the courage to actually, email someone or get it out there or just because I would love to meet with them, but I'm not exactly sure like how to start that conversation or what to say.
Um, I I believe that After School Alliance, since they're an advocacy organization, has that has like toolkits of, conversation starters and things like that. I can certainly follow up and kind of do some digging or reach out to After School Alliance and have Contrail connect you guys with those scripts. We don't do it because we're since we don't take policy positions, we don't have like advocacy type of scripts, but they most likely do.
Thank you, Casey, for that question. That's a great question. And Ashley, I probably should have jumped in a little bit there to help assist with the answer. But yes, the After School Alliance has pretty much a layout and a toolkit on from the social media outreach to the phone call to the email. And we will be sure here at the network to share all of those links for you to follow up on gaining that courage. And I appreciate some vulnerability and using the word courage there, because sometimes, yes, we have all this information, but then to walk through the door of a legislator can be a little intimidating sometimes. So yes, we'll provide those pieces of the toolkit for you to do that outreach to help you start that conversation. Thank you for that question, Casey.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I will say, Casey, I think it gets easier the more times you do it. Um, and I would say most state legislators are pretty down to earth, so try not to be intimidated.
Yes. Any other questions for Ashley? Okay, well, if one pops up here in the next 30 minutes while we're still on, don't hesitate, drop it in the chat. We'll come back and revisit that question before we close out. But next, we have a story to tell, or should I say, our next presenter has a story to tell about his recent engagement with a local legislator during the freezing of the 21st century dollars this past summer. So without hesitation here, I want to turn the microphone over here to Evan Van Shy. And Evan, I hope I said your last name correctly. If not, please correct me. Who is the program director at the Bristol Borough School District for 21st Century. So Evan's going to share an experience that he had this summer with him and his staff. Evan.
Thank you, Contrell. Like Contrell said, my name's Evan Vanchi. I've been a program director now for about 4 or 5 years, been working for 21st Century for 8. So Contrell asked me to come in and share some of my recent experiences and some of my efforts in local advocacy and building advocacy for after-school program. I do want to start off by saying that I'm not an expert in advocacy itself, but I do know after-school programs. I know the importance of the after-school programs, like most of you do. So really my goal here is just to help build some confidence in getting some of those small talks started. So we're going to jump right into it. So when I was thinking about things to talk to you guys about, I kept coming across why local advocacy actually matters and why there's a long list of reasons why advocacy matters. These 4 topics kept coming back to me. The first one being visibility. I really feel that visibility, when advocacy itself keeps after school programs in view during budget cycles and policy debates, but it also just keeps after school on the radar. Awareness, showing your local leaders that your programs matter. You can talk to your local leaders about many things, one being student growth, family engagement, workforce readiness, and academic achievement. Building relationships, much like what Ashley was saying during her presentation, you never know where a relationship is going to be built from. It could be somebody watching on a YouTube from your local community members, or it can be somebody in the community that has connections. Strong local connections. Strong local connections can lead to site visits, joint initiatives, media coverage, and even champions of advocates for after school. Now, you probably know a lot of these advocates already for after school, but let's start trying to reach out to ones that, might not even know that you're there. Sustainability. Consistent local engagement keeps after school on the radar, like I said before. You don't know who in the community can be a support to your programs, who can bring new initiatives into your sites and just kind of make your program stronger as a whole. So some of my approaches and lessons that I've learned over the years was that I started small without even realizing it. I've always made it a point to attend local borough and hall, school board and leadership meetings at least twice a year. In these meetings, I just let the town know, hey, this is what we're running in after school. These are the students we serve, K through 12. This is what we do. We do tutoring for math and ELA. We have other fun programs and things like that that get these kids engaged during that out of school time. My first real step into advocacy was actually attending PSAYDN's Advocacy Day. Each year, PSAYDN holds that Advocacy Day at the State Capitol building, like Ashley was saying, where you can talk to your local politicians. The first few years that I went, I left Advocacy Day a little discouraged that I wasn't well prepared, that I wasn't putting my best foot forward. So over the last couple of years that I've been going to advocacy, I started asking myself, how can I make this more efficient? How can I be more effective when I'm talking to these leaders? So I just had to remember that I'm not alone in this work. Walking into that state building, I'm not alone. I might be alone at that time, but I have my whole community behind me. So I started asking the community partners, teachers, parents, and students about the benefits of after school program, showing that when I go into that meeting that I have all these surveys kind of with their ideas and their thoughts, and some of those parents letting us know that, you know, without after school, their student wouldn't be succeeding, but also for them, they're using this time to go back to school, to get back into a higher paying job so they can support their family. And during this, when I was sending out that survey, somebody in the community came across, and they're well connected to Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick. And Brian actually outreached to us at Ivan's house, which is my home office, to set up a meeting to learn more about what 21st Century is and what we're doing in Bristol Borough. We were able to sit down with him in July and discuss with Brian about all the programs that are here in Bucks County, not just Bristol Borough, but we have 4 other grantees within the county that support the students here, whether it's academically or other enrichment programs. So we got to talking. It was a great conversation. He was able to tell us what he's really interested in, one being that he's really interested in increasing the volunteer firefighters. And we let him know that we actually have a partnership with the Bristol Borough Police Department and Fire Department. And each year, at least twice, they do come out and talk to the students about like kind of bridging that gap between the community and the police department, and letting them know that they're not ones to be scared of. If they're ever in the building, you know, say hi, try to bridge that gap. So we had this great conversation. And it just goes to show that outreaching to your local networks and starting those small conversations can lead to a big conversation. And then just remember that it's okay not to be an expert. I might not be an expert at talking to the local representatives or politicians, but I know why these programs matter to our students, our families, and the community. So how do I think you can start? Anyone can be an advocate. Just start where you are. Identify your local reps, your state house, your Senate, your local school board, township meetings. The township meetings usually have community participation where you can go in and share your why. Tell your students, tell your stories, invite your students and parents to talk to during community meetings, and let them know that, you know, these programs are important, and if they go away, a lot of your community will suffer. And then stay connected. Like Ashley said, it's really important just to schedule those annual meetings to discuss what's happening in your programs, building those relationships and trust. For example, inviting some of your school board members out to your showcases or share student success stories. One really being Lights On After School. We all kind of run something during that time. If we can invite the school board or the Barrow Halls out to kind of see what you're actually doing, having them be an advocate for your program is only a benefit to you. And then to close it out, I was thinking of some of the questions that I asked in the very beginning of why is advocacy so important? So here are some of the things that I thought of. Where do I even start? And just remember to start small. Talk to your school board, talk to your community leaders, introduce yourself in your program. Your guys are experts in what you run. So it's really easy just to say, hey, we're doing these great things here. We're a little bit separate from what they do in the school day. We have more or less structured academic assistance to students where they can really achieve outside of the classroom. And then what if you don't have time for formal advocacy? Advocacy can really fit into your already existing work schedule. Make a quick post, tag a local legislator, invite people to your Lights On After School or any of your family engagement programs just to show them For example, in my summer program, we do a performance arts play every year. I do invite the school board members, the community partners, and our Barrel Hall out to kind of see their performance. These are usually young kids who have never been on the stage before, singing, dancing. It might not be something that is data driven, but it is something that these kids are excelling in. They're learning confidence. And this is something that we can share why after school is so important, why summer programming is so important. Does my voice actually make a difference? Absolutely it does. Remember that you and your community are our local voters, and legislators are people at the end of the day. I found that most of these conversations that I've had are easy conversations. It's not something that they're asking me data-driven questions. You know, they really want to know what benefits are being made in their community. Why are we so important? Your voice represents students and families that, you know, they might not be heard otherwise. Do I need to be a policy expert? Not at all. I'm not. You know, with the ongoing policy discussions as it is right now, I can only tell why I think these programs are important and why the community thinks they're important. I think personal stories show real results. And I think that's really all I have. If anybody has any questions, I would love to answer them.
Please, if you have any questions for Evan Van Schie, go ahead and unmute yourself. And a little pushback on his introduction that he's not the expert in advocacy. I think we all might say maybe so, Evan, because your presentation is right on point. It is the 101 of advocacy all the way to the highest level of having those meetings. So before anyone jumps in and unmutes themselves, I want to thank you for a great presentation, a great experience in your vulnerability to go out and knock on the door and meet with a legislator and have that so important conversation, which you highlighted here several times, is this is what we do after school, right? That's your starter. This is what we're doing to help our students academically. This is what we're doing to help our students build and strengthen their community. So great stuff there, Evan. And if anyone has any questions, I've seen some reactions come up, so I'm grateful for that because I'm like a 206 to 35 on y'all right now. So thank you for using that widget and showing Evan your appreciation. While I'm on that stream, let's give a big thanks to both Ashley and Evan for their presentation today, sharing this expertise knowledge on walking us through advocacy for out of school time and summer programs here in Pennsylvania. All right, I'm gonna take a quick review of the chat to see if we're missing anything in the chat. I don't think so. All right. As promised, I do have some resources to share and some things to go over with you all before we get off today's webinar. First, I'd like to give you a heads up on the American After 3 p.m. report. Now, this is a report that comes out every 5 years. And since 2024, the After School America 3 p.m. study has provided a comprehensive view into how children and young people spend their hours between 3 and 6 p.m. They were proud to release the 5th edition of this report just yesterday down in Washington, D.C., amongst a crowd of several hundred people and more than 1,000 that joined online, revealing the latest data on after-school demand, the barriers to program participation, which students are missing out, and parents' views on after-school programs. So I'm going to drop in the chat right now the link to the American After 3 p.m. website, which will take you to those reports, but I'm not going to just leave you with the link. I actually want to show you what those reports look like. So bear with me here for a second as I myself will click on that link. So when you click on that link, hopefully you can see what I'm sharing now. which is the home page for the America After 3 p.m., you will see, as soon as I move the thing out the way here, you will see on the right-hand side the national and state dashboards, the executive summary, the national fact sheet, and also the press release that went out. I'm going to click on the national and state dashboards. Now, just so I know that everyone here is following me, I'm going to one second, I apologize. Just to make sure everyone is on the same screen I am when I click national and state dashboard, you should see this screen here. We can go right to the state of Pennsylvania, hover over Pennsylvania, and click that link. When you click that link, man, these widgets are in the way. I apologize if I'm making anybody dizzy by sharing and stop sharing, but again, I want to make sure that you're on the same page in which I'm referencing. So when you click on and hover over the state of Pennsylvania, you'll see up here on the right-hand side of your screen here, the Pennsylvania After 3 p.m. fact sheet tab, and you'll see the news release. When you click the fact sheet tab, again, I'm going to stop the share just to make sure everyone is seeing what I'm seeing. You will see the most updated fact sheet for Pennsylvania when it comes to out of school time. So without reading every piece here to you, let's look at some of the things that stick out here in Pennsylvania. More than 792,000 students, right, would be in an after-school program if one was afforded to them. That's 4 out of 5 Pennsylvania children are missing out on the opportunity to join an after-school program. When you look at the benefits of after school, whether it's the benefits to the children or the parents, overwhelming percentage that it's keeping kids safe, building social skills and responsible decision making, supports well-being, encourages fun and learning, benefits to the parents, right? So not just being able to go to work, but knowing that your child is in a safe space. I'm more productive. You can be more productive at work. So it does boost productivity beyond being able to go get a job because you know your child is in a safe environment. And then when we talk about high quality, actually learning and making real world connections. 4.3, 4.23 star rating out of 5. That is great. That tells us more than 90% see after school programs as excellent or very good. And when I keep scrolling down, you'll see some other benefits or other barriers as well. So we know the dollars here, right? So more than half of the individuals that want to get into an after school program, there's some type of financial strain that could be preventing them from doing that. If we look at the location, right? So access. So 50% say that the locations are inconvenient, that they can't get to it. Even if there is transportation, right? But we know without transportation, 53% of students cannot join because of the lack of transportation. And then programs are unavailable in the particular community in which those students and families reside, almost 50% there. So this is why we do what we do on the PSAYDN half here in advocating and sharing resources. So that fact sheet is available for each and every one of you to have in hand, to leave behind. Now, someone told me a couple months ago that they laminate what they leave behind on the legislator because then it doesn't become that crinkled up piece of paper that they've got to stick under somewhere. It becomes a little bit more tangible that I got to pay attention, even if I'm blowing myself to stay cool, right? So just give that little tip. If you want to laminate it, this ain't your social security card. You can laminate it. Feel free to spice it up. Before we get out of here off the 3 p.m. site, I want to also highlight the national data fact sheet. So real quick, on that same website, right next to the state of Pennsylvania's tab, you will see the national fact sheet for out of school time. So here, titled A Lost Opportunity, that after school programs that are in demand, but out of reach for many. This here highlights that out of reach for many. Phone never rings. Phone never rings till now. So here we got 29.6 million kids, right, in after school programs, 22 that would be in programs, 22.6 that can't get there. We talked about whether it's the dollars to afford the after school program, the transportation, the location of those programs. All of those are having an impact, telling us that 3 out of 4 students across this country are missing out on an after school or summer program. Barriers here again, dollars, transportation, and availability, which is pretty much rubber stamping, or should I say, co-signing here in Pennsylvania, what's happening in the barriers. We look at some of the top concerns for parents. Again, keeping the kids safe. They're in a safe space so I can go to work and I can be productive at work knowing that my child is in a safe, enriching environment. And then some other statistics down here that are notable to pay attention to. So I'm going to stop that share and just encourage you all to join the America After 3 p.m. website for those fact sheets. We will have them posted on the website, on the PSAYDN website, as soon as we can. Again, it was just released yesterday. I got back late last night, and here I am this morning sharing the news with you all. So we'll get those printable versions up on our website as well for easier access. I also want to take a minute or two here and talk a little bit about what is happening with the federal shutdown. As you all know, as of last Friday, or if you didn't know, the Department of Education has laid off about 450 of its staff as part of the second reduction in force, or the RIF. While almost all employees remain unpaid, through the furlough, all of the remaining 21 CC employees at the Education Department were fired. All remaining 21st CCLC employees at the Education Department were fired. So, what can we do about that here, people? Get back to the screen. You'll see me drop it in the chat right now. An action alert, I have it called. We're asking you here, and this is sponsored through the After School Alliance. We're asking you to click on that link there and sign that petition pretty much that says, we need 21st century. We need after school and out of school time programs. So this is not an ask, but more of a charge. I'm charging with each of you on the session here today to take a minute and please reach out on this petition here to say, we need these programs to continue. While the government shutdown is impacting many, we know in this space here in the OST community is having a direct effect as we speak. Any questions right now that I could take on the information that was shared through the American After 3 p.m. report or the action ask for the petition? No questions. Okay. And lastly, before we kind of shut things down here, I do want to remind everyone of the Lights On After School next Thursday, the 23rd. If that date doesn't work for you in your program, that doesn't mean you shouldn't or couldn't host a Lights On event. While that's the national date for the event, if you need to do yours next Monday, if it comes on the Friday after, you can still call it Lights On, and we would ask you to register your program on the link provided here in the chat. Now, to relieve any nervousness about registering your program, it doesn't mean people are going to show up to find out what's happening. That has to come and should come from an intentional invitation from you. But what that does at the Alliance and here at the network, that helps us gather the data so we can continue to share the impact that programs are having in their communities across the state and again across the nation. So please take time, click on that register your Lights On event and drop your information in there. I think we were maybe 10 programs behind from last year's data, but I'm sure in the next couple of days we're going to be able to exceed that. I also dropped in that chat, in that same message there, the light bulb challenge. Okay, so that's something that goes a little bit like this. We're asking for Pennsylvania out of school time programs and providers to participate in that light bulb challenge. Now, when you click on that link, it'll take you to the Alliance. It'll show you nice pictures. It'll tell you all of the things that's happening. Rachel is going to drop in the chat right now the network's Padlet link. Okay, so that allows us here just in Pennsylvania to upload your light bulb challenge picture or any other pictures from your event that you'd like to share with us. We will vet the pictures, but we also use them to tell the story at our events throughout the year. So knowing when you submit that on the Padlet, whether it's at the Extra Learning Opportunities Conference, whether it's at the Empower Conference, whether it's at any youth development initiative in the state, we like to share what our out-of-school time folks are performing and doing in the space and the time that they're granted with those students. Last but not least, hopefully you're in position to attend our session 4 on November 20th. That session is titled Workforce Development in After School and the Out of School Time. So you'll see there in the chat the registered link for that date. Register for the December 18th session. I don't know how. I think I got 2 sessions up here. Well, we talk about the November 20th session, but you can register for the December session as well. But take time to go ahead and register for the session, the next upcoming session. And then my closeout. I always kind of try to close out, make sure I'm not sharing. Okay, I'd like to close out with a proverb. I think the last time I was able to join you all, I talked about if you think you're too small to make a difference, you ain't spent the night with a mosquito, right? That little thing lets you know that they're there. Today's proverb I'd like to leave you all with is, the jungle is stronger than the elephant. Okay, this meaning that this proverb suggests that the collective strength of many can overcome the power of a single dominant force, just emphasizing the adaptability and resilience in the face of challenges. So I want to thank you all for joining us today. We are right at the 12 o'clock. I don't think we could have timed that any better. Again, I want to thank Ashley Wallace. I want to thank Evan Van Schie for their presentations. I want to thank you all in advance for both signing a petition, registering your Lights On event, participating in the Light Bulb Challenge, and joining us in our next session. Have a great rest of your day, great rest of the week, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for all that you do. Bye, everyone.